This is the Jackery 2000 version 2 portable power station. It's a super popular power station in the 2000 watt range. So I want to give you guys a full breakdown of what this thing can do. I'll show you guys some of the features that it has. I'll run some tests for you guys so you can see what it can actually power. And then I'll just give you guys my review at the end. So let's get in the video. So the first thing I want to mention is this has a 2042 watt battery capacity. So it's kind of in the middle size to higher size power stations. It's going to be able to power a lot of the basic items in your house, refrigerators, TVs, things like that. But it's also, light enough to where it's going to be good for camping as well, which is pretty awesome. This is an LFP battery, so lithium iron phosphate, which is what most of the big brand, power stations use now because it's one of the most reliable and safest batteries out there, which is super nice, and it should be able to last a very long time, at least over 10 years. It's actually rated to have 4,000 plus battery life cycles to degrade down to 80%. So if you were to use this thing, every single day, it should last at least 10 years to get down to 80%, and then even, longer after that. And if you didn't use it every single day, which a lot of us probably won't use it every single day, it should last, past 10 years as well, which is pretty awesome. If you're going to be getting a power station like this, you want it to be able to last a long time. As far as the design goes, it's a pretty basic design. It is nice that it has all the outlets and outputs on the front. For the charging ports and things like that, you get it on the side, which I'll show you guys here in a second. Right here on the front, you get three-prong AC outlets. It's got a max AC output of 2,200 watts, as you can see right here, but it can surge all the way up to 4,400 watts, so twice the capacity of that, which is super nice. And we'll actually test the output later in the video, but if you did have a device that needs that, extra kick up to 4,400 watts, this is gonna be able to do that, which is pretty awesome. That is a lot of power. That's gonna be able to power essentially all the basic items in your house, refrigerators, TVs for a fairly long time as well. And then going over here to the left side, we have our DC output. So we have an 18 watt USB-A, and then we have two USB-Cs. One's 100 watt, one's 30 watt. I would like if both of these were 100 watts, but at least there's two USB-Cs and at least one is 100 watts. That's gonna be able to fast charge your phone, laptop, things like that. I will say there are other power stations in this range that have, more outlets and more Type-Cs, but in my opinion, it doesn't really matter. Most of the time, you're not gonna be plugging in, 10 devices at once anyways. You're probably just gonna be powering, two items at once or something like that. And so I don't really feel like it's bad at all if they just have three outlets and two USB-Cs, especially because the power output that it has, 2,200 watts and then up to 4,400 watts of surge, which is pretty awesome. And then you also get your DC, 12 volt, 10 amp car charger port right here, which most power stations have as well. If you do want to turn on the AC power or DC power, all you have to do is just click these buttons. So first you want to turn it on. So you hold the power station or the power button for like a second or two, it'll turn on. And then you get this nice screen right here. And then to either click the AC power or DC power, you just click these buttons. Once the green light's on, then you can actually start plugging things in and charging things up. And the screen's super simple, but nice. It's got your output and input on different sides, so you can tell how many watts are being input and output when you're charging it. You can see the battery level percentage. And then, once you actually plug something in, that'll adjust and it'll show you how many watts you have. And it'll show you how many hours you have left of charge, which will adjust depending on what you're plugging into it. And then right here, you also have a light, which is nice. It has different brightness modes, so once you click it again, it'll get brighter. Once you click it again, do an SOS mode, and then once you click it again, it'll turn off. So it has three different modes, which is also nice to have. If you are camping or if you're outside and you can't see anything, this is basically an extra light that you can have at your campsite and an extra light that you can have so you can see the outlets if you're plugging something in. And then if we go over here on the side of the power station, here we have on this side, on the right side, we have our different outlet plugins. This is how you actually charge this up. You can charge this up either with an outlet, you can charge it up with solar panels, or you can actually charge it up with your car, which is super nice because it just gives you a lot of options, for charging this thing on the go. With the AC input, as you can see right here, it has 100 volt to 120 volt 15 amp max, which allows you to be able to charge it, Jackery claims, to 0 to 80% in about 66 minutes, so a little bit over an hour, and from 0 to 100 in about 102 minutes, so about an hour and 25 minutes or so. And then for the solar input, you do have two inputs right here. You can plug in up to 200 watts of solar panels in each one. So total, you can put up to 400 watts max of solar, which is kind of interesting actually, because that's the same amount of the Jackery 1000 version 2, which you'd think that, you'd be able to actually double the capacity or the solar input on a bigger power station, but it's actually the same, so it'll take about 6 hours or so, depending on the sun, to charge it up with solar if you do that up to 400 watt output. It would be nice if it was a little bit higher than that. You could get up to like 1,000. That way you could charge it up a little bit faster with solar, since it's twice the capacity of the Jackery 1000 version 2. But, 400 watts, it's still nice. I like that it has two ports, and you'd be able to charge it up in about 6 hours, which you know, if you were camping or anything like that, you could be charging it up during the day, and then at nighttime you'd be able to have that power, you know, 6 hours later, which is still pretty nice. And you can actually charge AC and solar at the same time to be able to charge it a little bit faster as well. And that's pretty much it around the power station. On each side, you have these vents on the side, which are for the fans. So that way, you know, this thing doesn't overheat, which is nice. And then you do have this handle on the top. So that way it's pretty easy to carry around. And there is like a silicone piece right here. So super nice to carry it around. And I do like that it folds flat when you're not using it. And you got kind of like a square design. So that way it's super easy to store or put in your car and things like that. You know, it's pretty easy to fit different places because there's no areas that stick out or anything like that. And I forgot to mention, it does come with the charging cable. It only comes with the AC charging cable though. It doesn't come with the solar panels or anything like that. So you will have to buy those separately, or you can get the bundle with the solar panels as well. And one thing that is cool about Jackery is they do have an app that syncs up with your power station as well, where you can completely monitor everything on here. So as you can see the battery level percentage, you know, input, output. You can pretty much control everything from this app. It is pretty simple. You know, there's not a ton you can do, but you can monitor it and you can do all the basic settings. And it actually is really responsive. I'll show you guys right here actually. So right now, you know, for example, if I want to put on the AC power or DC power, I can click this, boom. And as you can see, the button turned on right away. So it's very responsive. DC power, boom. You can do the light as well. So you can do low light, high light, SOS. And you can control that all with the app, and it is really responsive. And then you also have some battery settings as well. So you can use battery saving mode, and this basically allows the power station to only charge up to about 80%. And what that does, it's actually gonna make your battery last a little bit longer. As you can see, extends battery life by approximately 30%. So, you know, actually degrades your battery a little bit more if you charge it all the way up to 100%. So you can actually set this battery saving mode and only charge it to 80% if you want, or you can just do full use and allow it to just charge up to 100% when you're charging. And there actually is a couple more things that you can change, which is kind of nice. There actually is a couple different charging settings. So if you go over here to charging settings, you have fast charging mode, which is going to be able to charge it a little bit faster. And then you have quiet charging mode, which is basically going to make it a lot quieter. And, you know, only 30 decibels, which honestly, the normal charging mode isn't that loud anyway. So I don't really think that's necessary. But then back here, you also have emergency charging mode. And this is actually going to make it charge even faster. However, it's not as good for your battery. So, you know, you can charge it faster if you want, if you're in an emergency, but it's always recommended just to keep it at the fast charging mode and not the emergency charging mode, just because that's going to degrade the battery a little bit faster. So yeah, it is pretty cool, the stuff that you can adjust in the app. But now that we went over, you know, all the features around the power station, I want to run some tests for you guys so you can see what this can actually power. So let's get into it. All right, so for the first test, I have a full-size refrigerator. I always do a refrigerator just because I feel like it's a really important appliance to have, you know, if you did have a power outage in the house. And I feel like this is good to see because if you were camping and you had like a mini fridge or one of those like portable coolers, electric coolers, this would be able to power that too, to keep all your food and drinks cold as well while you're camping. So I have it plugged in right here. I don't have the AC power turned on. Let me get the screen turned on and I'll click the AC power button and we'll see what happens. So it should have no problem powering this. Right now it's saying 0 watts. It went up to 170 watts, but I think that's just to initiate it. And then it went back to 0 because the compressor is actually not on. But as you can see, the refrigerator actually, if you open it, it actually is turned on. And when it is open, it's using about 20 watts or so. And then when I close it, it goes down to 0. Back down to 0. So what I'll do is I'll actually wait a couple minutes and I'll see when the compressor turns on, and then we'll come back and I'll show you guys what it says. All right, after a little bit, the compressor finally kicked on because it needed to cool down. It's running about 118 watts of output right now. And as you can see, it's going to be able to run it for about 6.8 hours. But that's actually pretty conservative because when the compressor turns off, that number will go down again. So I'm guessing with that, it's probably going to last another probably 2 hours after that, hour or two. So probably about 9 hours at 50% battery, which is pretty awesome. I'm probably going to do a test later on where I actually just test this completely at 100% battery, how long, and just wait until it runs out. But for now, I'm just going off the reading. It's about 7 hours, so about 15 to 20 hours. It should be able to power your refrigerator. And this is also a double-sided fridge, so if you had a smaller fridge or if you had, you know, one of those camping fridges, like a cooler fridge that's electronic, it's going to be able to last for a long time, which is super awesome to see because if you were camping, you know, you could keep your food and drinks cool And yeah, pretty awesome to see. If you did have a power outage, you know, you could be able to run this thing all night and you'd be good to go. And you could charge it up with solar the next day and you'd be good to keep your food cold, which is pretty awesome. All right, now for this next test, I want to show you guys some stuff that uses a little bit more power, or quite a bit more. This is a panini maker. It uses about 1100 watts, something like that. This would be great for camping. You know, if you did have like a hot plate you want to cook something on. I have a toaster as well. We're going to be testing out to see if it can handle that 2200 watts of output. So I'm going to plug this in right here. Should be able to handle it no problem. As you can see, the light turned on. And let's see what happens. All right, it's using about almost 1200 watts. So here we go. I'll wait a little bit just so you guys can see. And at 40% or yeah, 50% battery, it's going to be able to run it for about an hour, it's showing. And look at that. No problem at all. But now we're going to test the toaster. So I'm going to plug this in. Boom. And we're going to see, I'm going to put one side down. We're going to see, looks like it's under, there we go. So it's actually under 2000 watts. So it's able to handle it. It's at 19 and 40 watts. And it's able to handle it pretty steady. Look at that, guys. A toaster and a cooktop at the same time. So it definitely is able to handle that 200 or 2200 watts, or at least 2000 right there. And it is continuously as well. All right, now I'm going to do a test with both of these together actually, so we can see, you know, that surge, if it can handle it, if it shuts off, what's going to happen. I'm going to actually plug in the toaster first, and then I'll plug in that as well so you guys can see. So I'll plug in the toaster. Let's see here. Boom. Put this side on. It's using about, or it's about 760 watts, okay? Now I'm going to do the other side. Boom. And now it's at about 1500. And now I'll plug in the panini maker, which should be, you know, that was like 1200 watts. So it should be well over the 2200 watts. And we're going to see what will happen. It'll either shut off or it'll be able to handle it. Let's see. All right, so it's using about 2694. So it's definitely over it. It's able to handle it though. Let's see how long it's able to handle it for. Or maybe it'll go for about 30 seconds, then it'll shut off. I'll give it about 30 seconds or so and see if it'll continue handling it. Okay, there we go. So yeah, it shut off. So it did have an emergency shut off. I was able to run it for about 30 seconds because it has that surge, and then it shut it off, which is actually good. It's actually a good thing. It shows that, you know, it can have that surge, but it has that overload protection where it's going to shut it off. That way it doesn't affect the battery, and it's not going to overload that battery. So that is good to see. That was a cool test to see. It can handle the 2200 watts. It has the surge, but after about 30 seconds, it's going to completely shut it off if it goes over that max AC output. All right, and then lastly, I just wanted to test it out, the charging, to see how many watts of input it can take from the AC outlet, or an AC input. So I'm gonna plug it in right now, and just to see, I just want to test it. It says it'll be able to charge it in about an hour and 2 minutes from 0 to 100. So we're gonna see, dang, that actually is a lot of, okay. So right now I have it set at the fast charging mode, and as you can see, it's inputting about 1600 watts, which is pretty awesome. So right now it's saying from 45% to 100, it's going to take about an hour. So usually like the last, you know, 20% after 80%, it takes a little bit longer. So it's showing about an hour. If it was at 0, I think that is pretty accurate. You know, if it was at 0, you know, about 102 minutes, about an hour, 25 minutes or so. So I think that is pretty accurate. You know, if you did have it from 0 to 100, it probably would be, you know, about, you know, an hour and a half or so, which is pretty good for a power station this big. You know, an hour and a half to be able to charge it to 100%. That's pretty amazing. You know, for the solar, it's going to take a little bit longer, but if you did have the outlet and you just wanted to have this thing charged up, you know, it does have a lot of input, and you're going to be able to charge it pretty quickly. All right, so I hope that can kind of help you guys see what this thing can do, some of the things that it can power. It is an awesome power station for camping to have with you on the go, because, you know, you can power essentially all of your basic camping devices. You can cook out there, have an electric griddle and things like that. And, you know, and if you had it at your house and you had a power outage, you could power your whole refrigerator, you know, through the night, which is pretty awesome. Like I said earlier, I would like if it had, you know, higher input on the solar. I think that would be really nice. But the AC input charges really fast. But overall, it's a pretty awesome power station. I do like, once again, that it's like cube shaped. It's really easy to store. It's got the handle really easy to take with you, and it only weighs like 39.5 pounds. So about 40 pounds, which is pretty lightweight, honestly. You know, you can carry it, usually one person, no problem at all. So if you guys are looking for an awesome power station for camping, also to have in your house for power outages, things like that. This is a great option in my opinion. Definitely recommend checking it out.